Astra Travelers, and welcome to another episode of Tales of Teyvat, a Genshin Lore Podcast. Last week, we bawled our eyes out as we discussed Rue and Tsurumi Island.
This week, we've gained an audience with the lovely, the scandalous, and the mesmerizing Lady Liloupar. Kneel before her.
Are you crossing great swaths of Lore Desert, searching endlessly for a visual oasis? Well, come on into our magic bottle at talesofteyvat.com, where each episode has its own page with pics and vids that'll hydrate those filthy, nasty, sandy little eyeballs of yours faster than you can make your first wish.
Our site also includes links to past seasons and special episodes, artist spotlights from the community for every episode, wallpapers to download, including some new Fontaine ones, a new resource section that we're creating, and some of our favorite Genshin merch.
Let us know what you think of this episode and what you'd like to see in the future by emailing us at talesofteyvatpod@gmail.com, following us on Twitter, Tales of Teyvat, or following us on Instagram, Tales of Teyvat Pod. Now, before we jump into things, I just wanted to say that we got our Spotify Wrapped just like everyone else. And it was so exciting and amazing just to see how many people had Tales of Teyvat as their number one podcast. And we cannot thank you guys enough for that. And to everyone who sent us a DM or tagged us or emailed us about it, thank you. It really means so much for us to hear. We were super excited. We'd only had the podcast for a month and a half last year when Wrapped came out.
Yeah, it was a short amount of time.
It was like someone listened to you. So
and it was you.
Yeah, and maybe your mom. So it was really exciting to see the difference this year. And we just wanted to say thank you.
Yeah, and even if we weren't on your number one, if we still showed up on your list of podcasts too, that was amazing.
And shout out to the people like me that use a different service for their streaming. We know that it's not just the Spotify peeps out there that are listening, so thank you.
I also want to thank everyone who sent in or tweeted at us the Wrapped. You made Feeny cry. Very, very big happy tears.
All the time. Does Google or Apple or anything do like a Wrap?
They should.
Yeah, I use YouTube Music, which is Google, and they do a Wrapped.
Oh.
But it's weird because I listen to my podcast on Spotify, but I listen to music on YouTube Music. And Spotify wouldn't give me like a Wrapped just for my podcast, apparently.
Oh, no.
So, yeah.
But yeah, we just want to say thank you. I also want to out myself and just let everyone know that my number one musical artist was Hoyo.
Oh my God, it was mine too.
Oh my goodness.
And then I was sitting last night listening to it again, going, this makes sense.
It's because of the Fontaine soundtrack. There's so many tracks, and it's like, oh, this artist again, this artist again, this artist again.
What's funny is my entire soundtrack of the year was the Ooblet soundtrack. Don't at me, come at me. I need my cute tuds. But also, my number one song was Touch Grass. And for those who love Baby No Money...
Al, it doesn't count as touching it if you just listen to it.
Well, that's the thing, because the song goes, touch ass, touch grass. And I think that follows me pretty to the T.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, I do get to touch grass because I do live in the humid South, so grass is quite prevalent still right now.
But anyway, we just wanted to say thank you. So thank you to everyone. And even for those who don't do Wrapped, have no idea what we're talking about, thank you for listening. We appreciate it so much. I don't know how many times we can say it. So thank you. We're going to quickly change pace now and talk about surprise, incest, murder, and Liloupar. But before we do that, I think we need to quickly recap what we talked about last season in the desert episode, like super quick. Because some of those players come back in for this episode.
Yeah, because the desert itself was just, well, the desert was very expansive. I made myself laugh at that one.
If we remember, prior to the Skynail coming down, the now Sumeru Desert was a more inhabitable location, though we're not sure if it was a forest, a plains, snow. We don't really know. We just know it was inhabitable.
Yeah, it was not a desert before.
And the forest was not a forest before. They like switched directions there. They 180'd.
Yeah, I think it was like a regular landscape, and then the Skyno came down, turned it into a desert, and then Rukkhadevata, after, Deshret's nonsense, she like pieced out. I think she wandered eastward and then found like a cute little place to set up forest shop.
Yeah, she wanted the greatest aesthetic for her cute as a button Aranara.
Yeah, she's like, ugh, I'm so over the desert. This is the perfect place for my cute little jungle bungalow.
You know what she probably said? She's like, I hate sand. It's coarse.
Yeah, it's everywhere. It's in my beautiful white hair. It's in my little like weird flowy dress thing. I'm just tired of it. Keeps getting in my eyes.
She needed some baby powder to get that sand off.
I love how everyone just blasted past this goddamn Star Wars reference.
Yes.
Okay, at least someone said it.
Wait, what Star Wars reference?
So, Anakin, spoilers, Darth Vader, in a line so stupidly set, like so stupidly written, was talking to Padme and is like talking about sand. He's like, I hate sand. It's so coarse. It gets everywhere.
Oh, wow.
And that's the line.
I'm not a Star Wars nerd.
Neither am I, but I know it because it's just so stupid.
Yeah, it's like very memed.
Oh, I did not know that.
Trekkies for life.
I don't have Star Wars in my algorithm.
Well, it'll happen soon.
Which
I'm gonna
happy
fix that
about.
for you.
I'm very happy about. No, please don't.
Hey, Doctor Who's showing up in mine, so
Yeah, Brandon.
That's
You're welcome.
Wait until Star Trek gets in there. That's the good shit.
No, what is the other one? The like portal one? It's like Star Portal.
I don't like
What?
Star Trek.
Star Portal. Stargate.
Stargate. I watched Stargate, and you might surprise you since I just called it Star Portal, but I did watch it.
But did you watch Firefly?
No.
Thing.
Oh.
Anyway, I'm gonna jump back into our
What were we
desert.
talking about?
We're going back into the sand. So we had 3 main players in the original Sumeru desert stuff that we talked about. And that is A, King Deshret, aka the Scarlet King, who was pretty much a douchebag.
Well,
Alhamar is
Sure.
also his name. Just to make sure we give everybody their 35,000 names.
For as much as the desert has a Game of Thrones ambiance, if you will, he definitely has the most names that rival Daenerys Targaryen Stormborn.
King Deshret was one of the 3 people who ruled over Sumeru at the time, one of the 3 gods. They kind of passed by the Archon War and just ruled together instead. King Deshret kind of became a tyranny person after the death of the goddess of flowers, Nabu, who we'll talk about in a little bit. And that's what led Rukkhadevata, the original Dendro Archon, to say, peace out, Cub Scout, and go live in her new, not desert area.
yeah, it's Teyvat's favorite throuple.
The 3 god kings.
Yeah.
Then you had the goddess of flowers, Nabu.
Nabu Malikata.
Malikata.
I love her name. I could just repeat it constantly. Nabu Malikata. I don't know. It's like a nice little jingle.
And Nabu was actually a descendant from the Seelie race.
Yeah, she is thought to be the last of the Seelie race. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe she was cast aside.
Yeah, she was exiled.
Yes, the exile. Thank you. I couldn't think of the word. I also want to think that she was a moon princess.
I'm pretty sure the moon princesses were Seelies because there's a lot of lore around the Jinn that they are tied in with moon princess lore. I mean, the city that they lived in was the city of the Moon Maiden. So
Right. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. And lastly, we had Rukkhadevata. Rukkhadevata was the original Dendro Archon. When Nabu let herself die, Rukkhadevata and Deshret stopped getting along.
I do like how you just skirted around the argument of, did she
die?
Did she plan her own death? Did she make it happen? If you want to know more of that argument, go back to
Go back to
our desert episode.
Gods of the desert. Yeah. But no, I mean, just to oversimplify it, Nabu was getting along really well with King Deshret. Deshret wanted to explore forbidden knowledge. Somehow Nabu was allegedly swayed into agreeing, or maybe she admired his blasphemy. Maybe she had her own issues with, Celestia as an exile of the Seelie race. And she sort of agreed to help him, but she also foresaw the cataclysm and a bunch of other scary things. Either way, she said, I'm going to help you do that. And she somehow created a bridge to the forbidden knowledge for King Deshret, and she disappeared. Whatever happened to her, if she died, if she turned into something, we don't know. And then that sort of broke up the trio of Nabu, Deshret, and Rukkhadevata. Then Rukkhadevata left King Deshret as he went crazy, gathering this forbidden knowledge and exploring that whole issue. And she was like, I'm out of here. She went eastward and then created the forest.
And King Deshret, too, was also like super depressed after the Goddess of Flowers died, because not only did one lover die, but the other lover left him, and the throuple was dismantled. And he also then created the paradise that is underneath the tunnel, the dust tunnel in Sumeru, where he froze time. So it would forever just be a place that Nabu would have been at.
What's that place?
So that's the Eternal Oasis, or the Orchard of Paradisa.
Thank you.
I was trying to bait her.
He created that to basically, to create a tomb or a resting place for Nabu, even though she wasn't in it. And then he told all of the Jinn that she was in it and that she was just resting and that he would wake her up later. So this was also created, interestingly, around the same spot that the desert Skynell fell down.
Yeah, because King Deshret messed with time.
Wait, I have no idea that he messed with time other than creating the Eternal Oasis.
That's what I meant.
Oh.
Yeah, that's what I meant. I just meant he made this place where time doesn't change.
Oh, right.
So that's just a quick little recap on some of the things that might come up in this episode. So why don't we now actually jump into Liloupar? Who the hecky is Liloupar?
The mother of Jinn.
One thing that's important just to say right off the bat, because hopefully we're going to have more lore that goes into the desert coming up in the game, just because there is so much behind there that we're just talking about, because it changed a lot even from the first time we saw the desert to the next time. So this is as of where we're at, 4.2, 4.3 in the game. So, some things may end up changing.
Yeah, and we also have more to explore even in the history. So this episode, of course, is just dealing with Liloupar and the Fall of Gurabad. We do recognize that there's even more to the desert that we will explore in a future episode in terms of its history.
It's deep. It's expansive like a desert.
Yes.
Ah, Sino.
Yay, Sino!
It's my failed Sino dad joke. Didn't go very well.
Well, Tiff, you think that dad jokes are like quicksand, taking you under slowly, one at a time. So,
Tiff, do you care to over-explain it?
Well, you see, deserts are very large, vast areas.
That's so funny. That's so funny.
Oh my God.
We all thought it was really funny. No need to.
But let's talk about Miss Liloupar. So, in game, we meet Liloupar after we run into her with Jet, I think.
So this is the quest line that we start after we get Ben, and we first meet Jet and her father, and R.I.P. rest in power, Jarabel, who is kind of like a Gabriel-esque motif. Either way, she's kind of off on her own, and she's joined the Tenet tribe run by Boobalicious Babel. And so basically we're going on exploring some ruins with Jet and this really hot dude. But we do puzzles, perfect. We open up a new ruin, and within it there's a giant tree within this a desert cavern, and we beat a boss. I think it's the construct. And then we see a djinn. We see a genie in a bottle, really. We take it, and then all of the life of this tree just hoofs and dies. And that's how we meet Liloupar.
Mhm.
Honestly, destruction and mayhem sounds on brand with her.
I remember when Traveler and Paimon like spun around like with that crazy look on their face as you hear this like chord pop and then you hear this like crazy voice come out going, "If you wanna be with me, baby, there's a price to pay."
I'm a genie in a bottle. You gotta
Rub me the right way.
I mean, she'd be doing a lot of rubbing. But let's also not forget that, and we'll talk about this in a little bit, but Liloupar looks at us as the Traveler and is like, "You look familiar. You know who you look like? My master." And she specifically says master and references them with a he pronoun versus her mistress, who we will eventually learn is
The Goddess of Flowers.
exactly, yes,
Yeah.
the Goddess of Flowers. So we can assume she means King Deshret.
Yes.
Could just be because we are blonde or not, but we shall see. But after that, she gets real close into our ears and is like, and she tells us her true name. She tells us her true name, and I do have a couple of ideas what that true name is because of the name of the quest. And I did for a very long.
What's the name of the quest?
Dirge of Bilquis.
What?
The Dirge of Bilquis?
Dirge of Bilquis?
Yeah.
Or Bilkis.
It's a little hard for me to pronounce because every time I look at it, I want to say Bilquis.
Me too, actually.
Like from
every time I
American
see
Guy.
it. Yeah, exactly.
When I go into the theory of why they're using Bilquis, and I'm just going to continue to call this Bilquis from now on because I can't not now. Neil Gaiman definitely based Bilquis off of very important characters that are really good motifs for King Deshret, Rukkhadevata, the Goddess of Flowers. And for a very long time, I thought the Goddess of Flowers would fill the Bilquis role while King Deshret was kind of the King Solomon role. And I think after going through the quest and reading the stuff from Gurabad, I have a different idea of that. The Goddess of Flowers is not Bilquis, it's Liloupar. She's the Queen of
Right.
Sheba. And I say this because there's two theories of who the Queen of Sheba was. And so there's a theory that she was a Yemen queen with the name of Bilquis, spelled how it is in the game, Bilqis. And there's another theory that she was an Ethiopian queen, and that would reference Makeda. So it really depends. It could fit both. But the way Liloupar is just like, "Hey, little mama, let me whisper in your ear." And like, that's how we bond. That's how we're, possessing of Liloupar. We are now the master. It just, I don't know. Queen of Sheba vibes. Am I wrong?
I don't know anything about Queen of Sheba. I know I've heard the name and I've heard it in like movies, and stuff like that, but I don't actually know anything about Queen of Sheba. Can you give like a high level little synopsis?
So the Queen of Sheba basically is this queen. And again, we don't know if she's actually from Ethiopia or what is now Ethiopia or what is now Yemen. But she comes to Jerusalem, is like, "We have lots of gold, precious stones, and kind of seduces King Solomon.
Food.
Technically not a good thing, depending on what book you're reading.
I mean, if you want to be with her, there's a price to pay.
There is a price to pay. A lot of people will equate the meeting of Cleopatra and Mark Antony with the Queen of Sheba and King Solomon.
I can't with the fact that his name is Mark Anthony. It throws me off every time.
I know.
No, I mean, it makes sense, Al, because as we'll get into, I mean, her husband or her man, was very rich and
Yes.
had a lot of gold.
Yes. And what's funny is in the Quran and I think it's also, I can't remember if it's referenced in the Torah or not, but King Solomon, captures a lot of jinn. You can't see my face right now, but my eyebrows are up high. But he bottles up a lot of fucking jinn. And, it turns out the Queen of Sheba is with King Solomon for a couple of months, and he kind of tricks her into getting into his bed. this is a whole lot of like, if people call you the Queen of Sheba, they're saying it in a derogatory, like you're a slut. But in the actual story, it's King Solomon who tricks her. And she gets pregnant with Menelik the First, who is then another king. But basically, she had a thing with King Solomon. It didn't turn out great, but she did have a child.
Sounds familiar.
It's so rude. I mean, who doesn't love a slut? Sluts are the best.
And I'm like, oh my God. Like, just let women be powerful and sexy.
Yeah.
But we can equate Gurabad with the idea of King Solomon is referenced with Jinn. Gurabad is referenced with Jinn through Liloupar.
So speaking of Jinn, though, like, can we back up to like what is Liloupar?
Yeah. So just to go back, so yeah, we're talking about Liloupar here, and Liloupar is a Jinn.
She's a Jinni.
A genie in a bottle.
Yeah, so why don't we talk a little bit about what that actually is in Genshin and comparatively IRL?
The Jinn are elemental spirits that were created by Nabu Malikata when she was exiled and she was walking through the wasteland for 73.
What wasteland? Where is it? I have so many
barren
fucking
waste.
questions.
The barren wasteland.
I feel like the barren wastes is a barren waste in my lore because I don't know where the frick it is. I have no idea. It just keeps coming up.
I have a lot of questions. Is that referring to its own thing that we haven't seen yet? Maybe it's around Natlan, or is that just referring to the desert?
Is it
But then
Dark Sea?
that gets into a lot of timeline questions because we know that the desert wasn't the desert until a Skynell fell, and now we know that the Skynells fell after the primordial one teamed up with the second who came to fight the third descender. So yeah.
Yeah, and this time when Nabu Malikata makes the Jinn, this is thousands of years ago. We're talking about like when the second who came, like that kind of timeline. But basically, she is the goddess of flowers, and as she was walking through this barren wasteland somewhere in the world of Teyvat, basically as she walked, there were streams kind of made out like in her footsteps. Like she was magical.
The streams were coming out of her wounds, right? It was almost like she bled water.
Yeah. And then from that were like water lilies started to kind of like bloom out of those as well. And the Jinn came from the water lilies that grew in the streams. So basically they're blood spirits.
Gross. I hate it.
They're elemental spirits.
Yeah, they got really gross all of a sudden.
They bathe in his blood.
They came out of her wounds.
Yes, it's so true. This is the one time I'll allow that reference and not get annoyed about it.
There's actually an alternate story of how they came out, where they were kind of came from, which isn't really necessarily their very, very beginning, but it's actually in the House of Diana in the Academia's library in a book called The Shepherd of the Magic Bottle. And it actually talks more so of Deshret capturing them and putting them in bottles to help them take over the world, which is kind of a little bit further into the story, kind of sort of happens, but it completely removes Nabu out of the story.
It sounds like Deshret trying to change the narrative.
Yes, exactly.
Well, or maybe it's just too far removed where people only remember Deshret.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, because after Nabu Malikata, the goddess of flowers, quote unquote, dies, Deshret convinces all of the Jinn that she's resting. So they help build the eternal oasis. And, he says that he will resurrect her later. So then they all start following him. And I could see that because there is lore where there's a story about a genie who is talking to a young man. And she's sort of like giving some history of like, well, we were all, kept in bottles, blah, 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 and was talking about Deshret. And, she was a descendant of Liloupar. And it's easy to see like how maybe, the goddess of flowers over time that just sort of got removed from the story.
Yeah.
How sad.
I know. Just like it's a little too real, right? Like women being erased from history.
Yeah.
It's just sad too, the idea that like she put so much time and effort into taking care of the Jinn and making a home in Iconum, which we'll talk about in a second, but she just died and got forgotten about, and it just makes me really sad. It's like women of history type of thing, though. You're right.
How rude. How rude.
I did want to mention one interesting thing. According to this book collection, The Tale of Shiruya and Shiren, which reveals a whole lot of fun history.
And incest?
Yes. They actually do say about Liloupar that she was born upon a lily pad amid fragrant dewdrops. The white ibis blessed her, and the cobra bequeathed to her a cerulean pearl, and even the mighty giant crocodile bowed to her in worship. And I thought the cobra with the pearl thing was really interesting because that reminded me immediately of the Battle Pass cutscene.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the Genesis Pearl?
The Genesis Pearl, yeah. So I thought that was really interesting. Like, could Liloupar somehow be tied into that story? Or is that just referencing the Seelies as you know, are they the Celestial Kingdom? Are they tied into the Celestial Kingdom?
Is there more than one Genesis Pearl?
Yeah, maybe.
Like Chaos Crystals?
I think it heavily leans into whoever that third descender is.
Possibly.
I do believe it has to be something with the third descender, just because we don't know a lot about the third descender, but everything we are slowly learning is like they either started a battle, they did die, they're now powerful in death as no sees. So there's a lot of questions and thoughts around that.
The topic for a future episode.
Yeah, definitely. But back to Liloupar, I'll stop bringing up the Descenders, I swear, and I'll stop bringing up my angers. But during the time when Nabu was alive, and the Goddess of Flowers and King Deshret actually ruled over the Jinn together in Iconium. And from what I could tell, Iconium kind of disappeared as soon as the Goddess of Flowers died.
If we translate it, isn't it the Moonlight Kingdom?
The city of the Moon Maiden, according to the Jinn.
Yeah, from their ancient language.
It's also known as the City of Amphitheaters.
Which is interesting.
Yeah. And it was built by Deshret and Nabu for the Jinn specifically.
Yeah, it was a place for them to live. And a lot of people speculate that that's now where the Altar of Mirages is, which was like a limited time domain that unlocked for an event.
There's also relevant credence to a theory that it could have been in a bottle, like Bottle Land.
Ooh.
Oh, God.
Shit. Oh, my God.
There's a genie in one of, in the lore that is talking to someone, and they keep sort of saying, I really felt like Iconium was in a bottle itself. So, I mean, it could have just been like a poetic, like we were so sort of in our little bubble, like living our best lives while there was crazy stuff happening. But, who knows? Maybe it's like they were literally in a bottle.
Right. And there's a lot of questions about that, too, because when Iconium does eventually fall, Liloupar moves on to Gurabad, and we don't really hear anything about, like, how she left Gurabad. Did the other Jinni go with her? Like, we don't know a lot about that, like, transition.
Yeah. There's a couple of theories that have been put out there, or inferences from different artifact sets and books and stuff. One of them being that when her soon-to-be, in our story, husband comes into the picture, she's kind of like sent off with him from Deshret to kind of almost like help him out, and then they fall in love. But there's also an idea that she was like kind of given to him as well. But we don't know which one's actually true, if either. It could have been totally different too.
Yeah, because we really just don't know.
Yeah, it almost, a lot of things kind of skip over, and it's like, okay, she's with Deshret, and then it's like all of a sudden Ormuz shows up and she's with him then.
I did just want to say too that back to the Altar of Mirages, it's really interesting because if you read the description for the Altar of Mirages, at the very end it says the people of the desert wastes the desert wastes also once used this place as a ritual site to remember the ages long past, but all these joys and sorrows, like a false mirage, would disappear amidst the flow of the ley lines.
Always the ley line.
Yeah, it brought me back to the second Raiden Shogun quest again, with the ghosts and everything. And also the wastes, the desert wastes. I have so many questions. And I do think that it attributes the idea that it was in a bottle. Like, this bottle just sat in the middle of a barren wasteland in the desert.
I love the idea that the ley lines were creating mirages, like a mirage in a desert where it was really just Irminsul's memories popping up.
Right, absolutely. It's so sad, too. Like, Irminsul, stop bringing us down memory lane. We don't want to relive your sadness with you.
But it literally is memory lane.
And another really interesting point about Iconium 2 is eventually when we're talking to Babel and she's introducing ourselves, this is in-game, not during this past storyline that we're talking about.
I think you mean Booble.
Booble.
Booblicious
Or
definition make the
Babe.
tower crumble.
She does mention that the Jinn are eternal prisoners of Iconum.
Mm-hmm. She says that to Liloupar's face, too. Well, to whatever her face would be.
Well, yeah,
Right?
I mean, two bitches bitching each other out. Like, that's what you get. Like, I mean, Liloupar was not nice to Babel. Babel
Yeah.
tried to be a little respectful at first. You know, she's good at playing face. And then Babel was like, oh, this is how we're playing? Fuck you two. You're an eternal prisoner.
Can we all just love and hate one, how Liloupar is so fucking rude to anyone who is of desert dweller descent, and that the only reason she's angry at them is because the Jinn are all about freedom and they were forced into slavery, and she's like, well, that's your problem. And then here she is in a fucking bottle, forced to be imprisoned. Bitch has no leg to stand on.
I don't want to defend Liloupar, but I'm going to defend her a little bit here and just say that I have a feeling Liloupar knew, you know, that she wasn't necessarily going to make it through the end of the quest. And
Yeah.
I'll elaborate on that more because I don't want to ruin too much of what happens to Liloupar in ye old history.
But she didn't have to be such a bitch to everyone of the desert.
She only really talks to people she thinks are worthy. So, you know, whatever.
She is a bitch, but she owns it, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, I dug her in the beginning. Like I kind of was sus on Babel anyway, and Booble, Babel.
Like the Tower of Babel.
So I was kind of like, yeah, give it to her. But then later on, as the story goes on, when we are in that quest and we learn more about Liloupar and her history, I'm like, this bitch fucking nuts.
Yeah, every time you learn something new about Liloupar, you're just like,
Damn.
what?
You thought that Alice was a bad mom? Oof.
Mm.
Does this mean that Nabu was a little scary?
I mean, Nabu literally yeeted herself to make a point to Destrin. So
True.
And does that mean that like other Sealies were like that?
Well, Liloupar says that when Nabu died, all of the goodness of the Jinn went with her. And then they became these sadistic creatures kind of afterwards.
Oh, that's true.
That's
Yeah.
really interesting because to focus on the Jinn, because there's how Genshin portrays the Jinn and how like Islam and Arabic cultures portrayed the Jinn. And mind you, all over the Middle East, regardless of culture, Jinn have kind of been there even before like the, Abrahamic religions became a thing. So they've been there for a very long time. And most of the time they're considered like they're not innately evil or good. They can be tricksters, they can be malicious, but they can also kind of be helpful. And it just depends on the Jinn.
mm-hmm.
So it's really interesting how the idea of, you know, the goddess of flowers, like the second she's dead, boom, all the good in their hearts is gone. It's very interesting because in IRL, like Jinn are so interesting because they are so diverse. They're the gray area of spirits, if you will. Like they're not like they can be considered demons. Like the malicious Jinn will have that demonic entity, like where people will relate to it, versus a lot of the time they can be either very helpful or just like down the middle of the path.
Wait, what are they in D&D? Or does it make them what, chaotic neutral?
Very fuckable.
I don't know.
Very
I don't play enough
fuckable.
D&D.
You can tell I play a bard. I actually don't. I play a tiefling. I think they are chaotic neutral, if not lawful neutral, because depending on what folklore you're looking at and depending on what region of the Middle East you're looking at, they can twist your words maliciously, or in the folklore of like you're making a wish to a Jinn, they'll take you quite literally. It really depends.
It's very monkey's paw.
Mm-hmm. Also, I want to say there's this idea with malicious Jinn or mischievous Jinn that, you know how like in Christian mythology, look, I've watched Bones. I call it a mythology. All of it's mythology. But a demon possession is like taking over the body, while most cultures that reference Jinn consider it like whispering in your ear, which is why I found Liloupar's enchanting us with her true name very suspicious.
Yeah, it's a very good point, Al.
Because it's like she's trapping and manipulating us just with her voice. Because it's sultry.
But I'm going to bring us back. Well, actually, I'm going to take us to the leaving of Iconium. So, as we know, we really don't know what leads Liloupar to leave Iconium. We don't really know where all the Jinn go. But we're going to assume that most of them go to Gurabad.
Well, we know at least she does.
Yeah, we know at least she does. So Gurabad is founded by Ormuzd, and Ormuzd is some sort of shepherd.
Well, let me back up. I don't know that we know if he founded it, but he did end up ruling it. So Ormuzd was a shepherd who sort of gained the favor of Deshret and Liloupar, and he started uniting the desert people to overthrow a tyrant whose name was Huvashtra. And so once he was able to overthrow Huvashtra, Ormuzd sort of became the de facto ruler of the city of Gurabad, and he rose into prominence over the next however many years. This is after Nabu disappears, but before Deshret dies.
Okay.
So you have Ormuzd sort of getting in good with Deshret and Liloupar and overthrowing this tyrant, uniting the people, and you have Liloupar being very enchanted by this and sort of being like, wow, this Ormuzd guy, he is really doing something different. He's not just another human man. He's actually freeing people and believes in freedom. And she falls in love with him. She actually believes that he is someone that is interested in ending slavery, which was extremely important to her. And as he grew in power, lo and behold, he becomes corrupt, like so many human men. And so for some reason, Liloupar has no grace whatsoever for any little ounce of corruption when it comes to freedom. And she creates a whole evil plan to ruin him and his city of Gurabad over 3 generations using her own children because she is that pissed off.
Mom of the year.
I don't even think that makes her a pageant mom. Like, I don't know what that makes her.
Frederica could never.
None of them could ever.
Yeah.
So that's when Liloupar has her first child, Shirin.
Mm-hmm.
And Shirin is the oldest. She's part Jinn, which is interesting. Like, it kind of suggests that she might have gotten some of her mom's powers, but we're not really 100% sure on that either.
She definitely got some of her mom's powers, by the way.
Oh, okay. We're not sure how, but she did. Then Liloupar gets pregnant again by an unknown suitor and has Kisra.
Mm-hmm.
And Kisra, first off, Liloupar leaves this kid to be raised by the giant divine bird Gognus.
Mm-hmm.
Who does that?
Liloupar does.
Yeah, Liloupar.
Everybody in this game leaving their orphan children all over the fucking place.
Orphan alert. Orphan alert.
Orphan alert. Or would rather be an orphan alert. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, they would have been better off.
I mean, she left him with the divine bird, so yeah, he was an orphan.
Mm-hmm. Like, is this the equivalent of leaving your kid with the Adepti, or is it the equivalent of leaving your kid with Durin?
This is the equivalent of leaving your kid with a demon in a cave.
Oh, so Shenha's parents.
Yeah.
She very deliberately did this because it was all a part of her master plan. So let's back up to the birth of Shirin as we go through the Jinns of our lives soap opera.
So Ed Sheeran.
Oh God. Oh no. I hope she didn't look like him. Liloupar and Ormuzd gave birth to this daughter named Shirin. And before delivering Shirin to Ormuzd, she prophesied 3 times that, number 1, Shirin would fall in love with a great hero and bear a child that would surpass their father. Number 2, many of Shirin's relatives would have a sweet end. And number 3, Shirin alone would be given her father's kingdom. Now, when Shirin was born, she also gave 3 warnings to the Ormuzd. And those were, number one, Shirin's joy would bring tears to her father's eyes. Number two, Liloupar and Ormazd should no longer feast at the same table as Shirin once she was wed. And number three, their daughter's heir would be an ill omen upon the king's land. So she has these three prophecies and these three warnings at the time that Shirin is born. So she is putting this whole evil plan in place just to bring down Ormazd and Gurabad, his city, right?
Quick question.
Uh-huh.
Does she really have any grounds to be making prophecies, or is she just totally bullshitting this all?
She's just prophesizing her own shit that she's about to do.
Exactly.
Is that what it is? That's what I thought.
Did she plan the incest?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, she definitely planned
she
the
did.
incest. Yeah.
This is so culty.
But she makes this whole master plan, and she's basically warning people about it, but then the warnings are part of her plan.
This is some Targaryen bullshit. I love it. House of Dragon me, motherfuckers.
Yeah. So part of her master plan, not just having Shirin, I mean, once she has this daughter, she also runs off and somehow has a son, Kisra, that Feeney was just talking about. I guess she doesn't necessarily carry a child the same way a human would, or maybe she was just away from Ormazd for long enough, so he didn't know. But she gives birth to this son, Kisra, leaves him with the divine bird named Gognas, and her man, Ormazd, has no idea that she did this, that she had this whole other child.
Which is insane.
I was going to say, she also had like 300 kids after this. So it's probably like just the way she looked, Even if she was
What?
carrying, it's like,
Wait, she had other kids?
Well, no, we know that Ormazd had 300 heirs. We don't know if they were all Liloupars.
I mean, I kind of want to assume so.
Maybe he had a bunch of wives. We don't know.
Concubines?
Yeah, I mean, they're related somehow to Shirin just because, it being like one of the things that happens is with their sibling.
Yeah, we know that they're related to Shirin, and we know that they are her father's heirs. We just don't know if they're Liloupars.
I like the idea, though.
I do love the idea because apparently she can just shoot out kids like a BB gun.
I mean, Shirin does it later. Spoiler alert.
See, that's the great thing about the Jinn. Here's the thing. In many cultures, Jinn can take multiple different forms, whether it be human all the way down to scorpions. So she could have just been having scorpion babies pushing out 300 a day.
Well, the scorpion
I hate
piece
that.
of the lore is about to come into play
Okay, perfect. Mwah.
in a very different way.
Do you think if we just asked Ed Sheeran, he would be able to tell us?
Oh God,
I mean, it's his family history.
he would just be
Mhm.
doing an acoustic version of Genie in a Bottle.
I hope that there's an acoustic version of Genie in a Bottle somewhere out there.
There is, but I mean, he was, part of the Lannister army randomly.
Just imagine Ed Sheeran being like, "You gotta rub me the right way."
No, I hate it.
So Kisra, the son of Liloupar, that was abandoned with the giant divine bird named Gognas, he's very just naturally ambitious, right? So he just, with the help of Gognas, who sort of helps him along and his exploits and everything, and just his natural disposition, he gets the attention of Ormazd, who is, the ruler of Gurabad, and he starts plundering the desert in the name of Ormazd. So there's all these other city-states in the desert, and Kisra starts going around and just being like, "I'll take this, I'll take that, I'll murder all of you, I'll murder all of y'all." And he destroys what's said to be 99 cities in Ormazd's name. So he meets Ormazd. He's like, "Hey, I got you, boo. I'm going to go out and kill everyone in your name." He enslaves 99 sages from these 99 cities he destroys. He imprisons them back in Gurabad. They're just plundering, raping, pillaging. I mean, maybe not raping, hopefully not raping, but pillaging and plundering. And it was so successful. And part of that was due to Liloupar. Liloupar is pulling the strings in her master plan, and she sort of befriends Kisra and is like helping him do this. And how does she do that? This blew my mind. She designs machines that are driven by the remnants of Jinn spirits. She also inspires Kisara to build a, quote, colossal machine that could swallow up and spit out artificial objects, end quote. Hello?
Is that? Oh.
She says, he wanted unlimited power, and so I gave it to him. I designed for him machines driven by the remnants of Jinn spirits, and in a dream of pitch black darkness, I inspired him to build a colossal machine that could swallow up and spit out a torrent of artificial objects. This hoe went off and designed the rune golems.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Literally. Like, how crazy is that?
She is the mastermind of it.
And then Kisara built them. And so this makes me wonder, did Gurabad create, and maybe other desert tribes, did they create the technology that was later co-opted by Conria?
Oh my god, that would be so fucking cool.
They could have been descendants of them too.
Mm-hmm.
It also makes a lot of sense because in the desert, we see a lot of high-end technology that is part of King Destret, such as the triangle guys that I always forget the names of. But also because a lot of these cities eventually, plot twist, end up sinking into the ground.
Yeah, I mean, we at least know Gurabad did. So if they had all this technology, did Conria rise from the ruins of Gurabad after it sunk down into a chasm?
Maybe that's why Kunri is underground with a big ass door. It's Gurabad.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably all of them. It's crazy.
Yeah. Oh, that's crazy. I don't think my mind took it that far. Like, I was like, okay, it's sunk. It's down there.
Yeah, I just can't believe it. Like, we don't think of these ancient tribes as having that technology, like that level of technology. I mean, we should, because Conria is ancient, but
yeah.
Well, no, and it's like you're saying, though, this is thousands of years ago. And I think if there's one thing we've learned in the last few months, it's that all of these nations that were around thousands of years ago had some insane technology. And that's not just here in the desert. That includes Enkanomiya, it includes Conria, and it includes the ancient civilization in the chasm.
mm-hmm.
Oh my god. I just had an epiphany.
A Tiffany?
A Tiffany. I had a Tiffany.
Excuse me? Did you talk to me?
I have no evidence of this, but because of the idea that we have multiple civilizations with like high-end technology, somehow my brain instantly thought the fall of the Bronze Age.
Mm.
No one?
Nope. Nothing. No idea what you're talking about. Fall of the Bronze Age? What?
Yes.
I feel very history inept tonight.
I'm that way always. So
We could probably go into that like on a full. Now I want to like find more parallels, but there's this idea that within the Bronze Age, there was, a significant amount of technology that we to this day still do not know. Damascus steel is one of them. Greek fire, which we only recently found again.
What is Greek fire?
Oh my god. Do you want to know what dragon fire really is? That's Greek fire.
is that like when you eat hummus that's like way too spicy?
No, this is basically napalm,
Oh.
but in the Bronze Age, which the Greeks would fling out of ships and the water would catch fucking fire. It's amazing. Oh my god. Travelers, I want all of you. This is your homework. Find me all the little pieces of evidence that relate to the Bronze Age of ancient Teyvat history. Let's fucking go.
I just want to say that the Wii Nut, is probably one of the oldest things around. I recently learned that.
Other than a pep.
A pep doesn't matter.
Oh, God.
And I just want to say that I feel like one day we're going to figure out a way to talk to the Wii Nut and they're going to tell us everything. Like, I feel like they're just dying to tell someone.
I mean, Alice clearly brought them back over here to Earth because they made their film debut in the movie Tremors.
Yes.
Oh my fucking God.
Okay, so this is our 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. We've gotten to that like at level 3, I think.
Mhm.
Teyvat, Wii Nut, Tremors, Kevin Bacon. I will say though, the Wii Nuts are blind, so that makes sense. And they remember Destret, and I forget exactly what they said.
I think they were around before the desert was the desert, right?
Yes. Crazy. But anyway, Brandon, bring us back. We were just about to get to surprise incest.
Yeah. So we have Shirin, the daughter who was born.
Not Ed.
Not Ed, just a daughter whose first name is Shirin. And she was born to Liloupar and Ormuzd because they were getting it on. And, you know, I don't know if they were already trying to have a baby before Liloupar decided, I'm going to fuck you over and your whole city-state. Either way, they have Shirin. Liloupar gives the 3 prophecies, the 3 warnings. She scurries off and has another baby, which is Kisra. Kisra plunders the desert in the name of Ormuzd because he meets him somehow. He's very ambitious. This is all because Liloupar's machinations are leading him to do this. She's creating all these machines. She creates the freaking Ruum Golem. So he's like just taking over all these city-states in the desert in the name of Ormuzd and Gurabad. So what does Ormuzd do? He rewards Kisra before building all that power for him by changing his name to Parvez, which later becomes Parvez Ravan. And he offers Kisra his daughter's hand in marriage. Not knowing that they are siblings.
Dun, dun, dun.
Oh my god, this is Oedipus. This is Oedipus Rex, isn't it? Oh my god.
No, everyone but the Weenut keeps their eyes,
So we love to joke about surprise incest, but this game literally has it.
The most literal surprise incest you could have.
And Liloupar knew this. She was like, let me get my kids together.
Disgusting.
Disgusting. So
It was like, they're only half siblings. How bad could it really be?
Really bad.
So they get together, they get married. Now, Shirin becomes aware through the years of her mother's original prophecy for her. So just to recap, her prophecy for Shirin was that she would fall in love with a great hero and bear a child that would surpass their father, that many of Shirin's relatives would have a sweet end, and that Shirin alone would be given her father's kingdom. So Shirin is sort of like not really in love with Kisra. She's not really happy with their marriage. And she's kind of like, I know my magical mom had this prophecy about me. So when is it going to come true? Like, when am I going to be happy and get all these wonderful things?
And Kisra is not really in love with Shirin either. He's more so just doing it to stay on her dad's good side and get the power as well, right?
Probably. I don't think there's much written about his side as far as how he feels about her, but she definitely is not happy with him. And she's waiting for this prophecy. She's like, is this really the hero that I was meant to marry and have a kid with? So she just becomes more and more deeply unhappy. Now, keep in mind, for some reason, Shirin, she takes on a lot of her mother's power and sort of genie traits, whereas it seems like Parvez maybe doesn't, or maybe he just takes on a different aspect of it. But Shirin is very kind of bored with humans. She's looking for something sort of beyond the mundane humanity. And so she sort of starts to lose her mind a little bit. It just kind of burns through her mind. She decides, if this prophecy isn't going to happen to make me happy, I'm going to make it happen. So she convinces her husband, Parvez, aka Kisra, to help her force this prophecy to pass. So what does she do? Oh, and by the way, Shirin is also using this power that was passed down to her from Liloupar to enslave Jinn spirits within
Jesus
machines.
Christ.
So, her husband Kisra is like using all these machines to take over parts of the desert. Shirin, in the meantime, is like using her genie powers to sort of take these husks of genie spirits and implant them into the machines to create this machine army for him.
And Liloupar the entire time is singing in a corner going,
yeah, like, oh, here's some blueprints for that next machine you want to do. Oh, you two are just the cutest couple. Just look at y'all. I can't wait for you to have a baby.
I hate that. I hate that so much.
And so anyway, Shirin, sort of twisted into madness, she convinces Kisra, aka Parvez, to help her force this prophecy to come true. So one night there's this grand banquet for Ormuzd and his 300 heirs. And Shirin and Parvez, again, we don't know where the 300 heirs come from.
But I want you to all think that they all came from Liloupar.
I mean, she would be fine with it if they did. I wouldn't be surprised, honestly.
And she'd be okay with them, what happens next too, because it's all part of her plan.
I know. And I like to think that Ormazd thought he was sleeping with a bunch of other women, but it was really just Liloupar disguised.
Oh, that'd be so good.
Jesus. But I get it, girl. Fuck it.
So Shirin and Parvez, they actually, at this grand banquet for Ormazd and his 300 heirs, they have the honey at this banquet poisoned with scorpion venom.
Well, I also think it's really important to note that part of that, because of the prophecy, Shirin was not allowed to eat with them, as noted in the rules and regulations of Liloupar. So Shirin this whole time had been exiled from dinners. So Shirin, as one of the heirs, wasn't even invited to dinner.
Right, yes, that's right. Because one of the warnings that Liloupar gave to Ormazd was that Liloupar and Ormazd should no longer feast at the same table as Shirin once she was wed.
Which is just imagine, you don't invite one heir, and they're like,
So what they did was Shirin and Parvez, they get some scapegoats to actually do the poisoning. And so they get these scapegoats to poison them. There's different accounts of who it was, if they were slaves or, sages or something. So what happens is they poison everyone. All 300 heirs and Ormazd die from the poison. And Parvez was very reluctant to co-conspire with Shirin to do this, but he did it. And the people that actually did the poisoning, basically Parvez turns on them, blames them. They poisoned everyone. And as those people were getting murdered for killing everyone, they cursed Parvez. So I guess Shirin got Parvez to basically hire people to do the poisoning. He sort of turns on them after the deed is done and says they did it. They get killed. They curse Parvez. So you have these Shirin and Parvez just mass murderers, basically.
Wild.
And by the way, just to go back to one of the prophecies of Shirin's birth, this is how many of Shirin's relatives meet a sweet end.
Sweet end. Sweet end. So Sino.
Sino did it, yeah. This is also how Parvez becomes known as Parvez Ravan, because now he's the king. Now that Ormazd is dead, he becomes the king.
Which this still isn't the prophecy, because Shirin's supposed to be the only person in charge.
I wonder how that's going to happen.
Little hardcore sex, and then all of a sudden he died of a heart attack. I don't know. That'd be a good way to go.
Yeah, he wishes that's how it happened.
Did they already have their kid at this point?
No, so now they have their kid. So Shirin and Parvez have a son, Shiruye, who is later called Karamdim. And so Shirin is very in love with her child, but Parvez, he's a little scared, because he remembers the third warning that Liloupar gave to Ormazd, which was, roll back the tape, their daughter's heir would be an ill omen upon the king's land. So he knows that Shiruye is a danger to him because he's the king and this is the heir that he had with Shirin. Meanwhile, Shirin loved Shiruye very much. Parvez is like, well, I'm not trying to have this around because things are dangerous. So he banishes his son from the kingdom once he's of a certain age, and he forces him to cover his face as he flees Gurabad.
Wearing a brass mask.
Yes.
This is so Greek. Oh my fucking God. I love it. Oh.
One interesting thing, just as a little side note to the brass mask that he has to wear, the speculation of that he wore it so this way people didn't know that it was him, then know that his father kicked him out and all that kind of stuff. But it could also be because they were incestual that the kid was a little messed up in the face.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So people have deduced that it could be that, an asymmetric asymmetrical face is a thing that happens with incest. So he could have looked a little funky.
He just looks like King Charles of Spain.
Oh, Lord.
Or was it? Oh, fuck. Is it Philippe? I can't remember anymore. The guy with the Habsburg jaw.
Listen, there are consequences to surprise incest sometimes.
Yeah, it's called bad genetic diversity.
But it's entirely possible that he looked normal because his mom was a genie.
Yeah,
and his
could
dad
be.
was also part genie.
Yeah, could just be hiding his identity. But I like the idea that people went down a scientific route with it.
This also very much is reminiscent of the story told in Kaya's Hangout. When you meet with Kaya in Sumeru, one of the paths you could take in his Hangout is watching a play happen. And in that play that Kaya eventually acts in, the son has been outcast because the father doesn't trust him. And he like fights his way to try to prove his father's trust. And the father still doesn't trust him. I just think that's interesting. It comes out of this old story that Kaya actually knows as well. When you play the Hangout, he really resonates with it. You know, the idea of all the familial issues, the father, and he actually starts improving and he's like, what is freedom? And Kaya goes on this whole rant about how he's going to instead love the new place instead of going back to the homeland that disgraced him. And it's all off the cuff as he's acting out the part. And travelers kind of sitting there in the audience like, man, this is personal.
That's so cool because that's also happening in Sumeru.
Mm-hmm.
And I forgot to mention, by the way, that all of this soap opera is explained in the book collection, The Tale of Shirye and Shirin, which was inspired by Khosrow and Shirin, which is a famous Persian tragic romance. So Shiruye has to flee Gurabad because his dad is like, get out, I don't want you overthrowing me. His face is covered with a brass mask when he leaves, which he later continues to wear. And I love that this theory that Tiff brings up of like, maybe he was doing it because he was scary looking. Either way, since he starts wearing this brass mask, it becomes sort of a symbol of exile and a symbol of the tyranny of Gurabad. And it actually inspires a lot of people to start following him as sort of like a symbol of resistance. They really start seeing him as resistance figure against Gurabad. So Shirye ends up at the Temple of the Moon Goddess, which I'm assuming is the city of the Moon Maiden that was still there, I guess.
Ooh.
Maybe. And so Shirin finds out where her son is, and in an attempt to finally rid herself of her jackass husband, she disguises herself as a divine priestess of the temple. And she goes there and she starts talking to Shirye and gives him this false prophecy about overthrowing his father, trying to be like, ooh, I'm psychic. I know what you need to do. There's a prophecy and you must overthrow your father. But then at the last moment of this whole interaction, this breeze blows off her veil and it reveals her face. So the jig is up. Her son knows what she's doing, but her son, seeing her veil fly off her face, is so sort of ashamed and terrified by the fact that she would even do this. And it reminds him so much of his own face being covered by his father as he had to, as he was exiled, that it inspires him to basically do what she was trying to get him to do in the first place. So he sneaks back into Gurabad and stabs his father to death while he's sleeping. And then he begs his mom, to forgive him. But she, of course, is just fine with it. She's like, oh, it's all good. Yeah. Give me a hug, son. The kingdom is ours.
It's so weird that he knew his mom literally told him to do this. And then he's like, Mom, please forgive me.
I know.
Yeah. I went and did what you said.
Well, they didn't know each other that well yet.
Yeah, but still, someone tells you to do something, you're going to go beg for forgiveness? No.
Well, so, that kind of just sort of shows what Shirye's personality was like, because he takes over the throne, but then he's so guilt-ridden by what he did to get it that he starts having these horrific nightmares. And one night in a frenzied state, just suffering intensely from insomnia and nightmares, he is wandering around and he falls into a deep chasm and disappears. And then it is said, according to legend, that a plague emerged from that chasm and it kills half of the city of Gurabad.
Yo.
And then rulerless and plagued, the city sort of falls into ruin until it was eventually devoured by the sand. Now, according to Liloupar later, like when we're actually doing the game quest, she says that the entire city itself fell into the chasm. And she says that she used the quote unquote dark abyss to punish that which she hated. And that makes me ask a question, like, did she use abyssal power to make the city fall? Did the city fall into the abyss?
100%.
For sure.
Yeah.
I don't know if it fell into the abyss, but she would 100% used abyssal power.
How did she get abyssal power if she's a
pep.
genie and she's born of a pep, you said?
A pep. Yeah.
I don't know. It makes me wonder if there's like this whole other backstory about her that we are not aware of yet. So Gurabad falls into this chasm allegedly, or gets swallowed by the sand when it's already in ruin, depending on which legend you want to go with. Now, as far as Shirin goes, according to legends, she was enslaved as a genie in a bottle by King Deshret, or alternate legend, she's still wandering the desert as an angry apparition. And then, we find out that King Deshret, who knows where Deshret was when all of this was happening over years and years and years.
He was with the forbidden knowledge somewhere.
Yeah, he was like ramping up his plan to actually finally get the forbidden knowledge, I guess.
Yeah, he was knee deep in it.
And apparently, and I also wonder if maybe him getting the forbidden knowledge was tied into Gurabad falling.
Yeah, because he went wackadoodle when he went more wackadoodle when he had the forbidden knowledge.
Right. But we will say that he finds out what Liloupar did, because again, this is all Liloupar's master plan. From the birth of Shiruye up until he stabs his own father to death while he's asleep, falling in the chasm, filled with guilt. This, like, you have Liloupar in the corner being like, at last.
Payback is mine.
Yeah, I finally got back at Ormazd, who has been dead for years and years. And years.
Yeah, like, what is return on value for that? To not even see his face,
Yeah, I mean, apparently it wasn't enough to get rid of him. She had to get rid of whole kingdom of Gurabad, the whole city-state of Gurabad. But King Deshret comes back, because remember, Ormazd had sort of grown into prominence by being in Deshret's good graces and uniting the desert. And he was very much seen in a positive light by Deshret at one point. So Deshret finds out what Liloupar did, and he's so enraged by what happened to Gurabad that's when he splits Liloupar into 7 parts.
How painful do you think that was?
Probably pretty painful.
I mean, she's still walking. Well, she ain't walking, but she's still in a bottle.
I just want to know, was she already split into a bunch of parts? Because did she have 300 kids? And was she out there having babies? What was she Gogness? Like, I have so many questions about Liloupar and like how many Liloupars there are out there in the world. Is she Dottore?
No!
Oh my gosh.
Stop it.
No,
my
she
God,
can't be
yes.
Dottore.
Why not?
Because I hate him.
Oh god.
Oh, and you love Liloupar?
And this brings us back to the beginning where I was like, Liloupar doesn't care about anyone, because Liloupar knew that she wasn't going to make it through her quest line because she'd already been broken up into 7 pieces. It was really just all about her spirit kind of hanging around.
Damn.
Yeah, and she knew she had to go back to Gurabad at the end.
We help her find the pieces of her soul, basically. Her fragments that are all over the desert, so this way she can be somewhat whole again. And
then she goes back to Gurabad to kind of get her sentence.
Yeah.
Which is kind of crazy. Like, what do you think they did to her there in the spiritual afterlife?
I'm going to guess it's not an applause.
No. Probably a little bit of torture.
I mean, partly in the abyss, fully in the abyss. Like, did she go into the abyss? Or is it just like the ruins of it there? Like, are there ghosts around?
Or do you think she passed into the afterlife? That was kind of what I thought. Was I'm returning to Gurabad, as in I am going to get my sentence in hell.
Well, yeah, because she said that she was going to be reunited with her children.
Why would you want that?
Remorse?
Like, those kids are waiting there with like holy water to... She has no remorse.
Yeah, they have pitchforks.
Yeah. Fire. They're actually sitting there with Deshret, just like ready to split her back up. And the time loop entails.
I took it as like it was her long coming punishment.
Yeah.
That she knew she had to face. Like, I feel like she knew what she was doing was evil and horrible. And she did what she needed to do. And, now that we were putting her back together, she was like, all right, well, now it's time to go to hell and face what I did.
Mm-hmm.
And do you think that kind of brings into question, too, the understanding of what the afterlife is in Teyvat as well?
You mean the ley lines?
Well, yeah, we just question, what did Liloupar going back mean? But is Liloupar assuming that she is going to be met with the face-to-face with the ghosties, of her past?
More than likely.
Yeah, or does she look at it just a final end?
Right, because we know that spirits can be encapsulated. We just talked about it last week with Rue and Tsurumi Island and the Thunder Manifestation. And we know we see ghosts everywhere because of the ley lines, but the ley line ghosts we've interacted with as well.
Mm-hmm.
So is that what she's kind of going back into a ley line to figure out? Did she end up in the abyss? Is she going to be one of Gold's next experiments?
Oh, no.
Yeah, I have a lot of questions about that. If she was using the quote unquote dark abyss to punish people, and if she says the entire city fell into the chasm, I mean, the people in that city, are they in the abyss, and is she going into the abyss? Since we know that there are basically souls floating around in the abyss that Gold can pull out and put into a body.
Yeah.
And I also think it's important just to point out, we've been using the word chasm. It's a different chasm than the one in Leeway, just so everyone knows. There are multiple chasms, but there only is one the chasm.
Right.
just want to clear that up, because I feel like that could be confusing.
Yeah, for sure. You can't even say the desert chasm, because the other chasm's it's on the edge of Sumeru. The non-capitalized chasm.
Yes, I like that. The not capitalized, the lowercase chasm.
The small C chasm.
The small C chasm.
Hold up. We still need to talk about the thing that Liloupar says to us at the very beginning of when we meet her, and that we remind her of her master, right? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So we know that we have been confirmed as the fourth descender, or at least the Fatui have confirmed that we are the fourth descender. So we know this via many other characters saying that we smell of the stars.
Albedo.
I was thinking Razor.
Many other.
Yeah, Razor did. Zhao tells us that we smell a little weird. But that leads me into the idea that we know Lilipar's master was Deshret. Was he, or is he, the third descender?
Mm-hmm.
And that when Apep ate him, kind of shitted out into gnosis, probably not, but he could be one of the descenders. We still don't know. We don't have a confirmation of the third descender. We do know they make up the gnosis. However, we also don't know how early we came to Teyvat. We could have come during the Cataclysm, or we could have come even far earlier.
Well, we knew we came before. We've confirmed that, because our sibling ruled served in Conria.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to throw a little wrench, though, Al, and I think you make a very good point about her master possibly being the descender, but I think it's possible that she's referring to Naboo.
Ooh.
And I think it would be really interesting if Asili was the third descender, and Asili's magic created the gnosis.
That'd be really interesting. However, she always refers to Naboo as mistress.
Mm-hmm.
True. That's true. But I don't know. There's just something about it. Because I think you make a really good point, even with Apep, where we don't know what happens to Naboo.
Mm-hmm. That's true. That's true.
But who knows? I mean, it could be anyone, really. It's like you said, it could just be some random blonde person.
Yeah, it's like we are very specific in the blonde sphere of Genshin.
Yeah, they're always like, oh, you're the blonde traveler. And I'm like, have you seen Dainsleif?
And it's like, yeah, y'all are lazy with platinum blondes, but not regular blonde.
Oh my God. Yeah. You can't even have a strawberry blonde. Not really. But there's also the idea, because if we're looking just by hair color, the closest person who has our exact hair color is Kave. And he is also like, there's a lot of iconography that links him to King Deshret.
Oh, so Deshret was Auto Apocalypse from Honkai Impact 3rd.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, it took a long time, but you got me to sigh.
Like, I got there. I found a way.
Yeah.
But yeah, we know the 3 players of the desert are big players in the history of Teyvat, even more so than some of the gods, I would say, or even the archons. And they've shaped so much history, and there's so much linking them to the greater sphere of history that there's something about all 3 of them that is like, there's something more to Deshret, there's something more to Nabu. I mean, we all know there was more to Gurabad, which we've explored a bit, but it's fucking cool. And now that I know that this could also be a reference to the collapse of the Bronze Age, I am now going to obsess.
I love it.
Obsess. And then also, why? Okay, I understand why. I'm going on a tangent. I'm so sorry. But like, there's a lot of Greek in the Sumerian desert, which makes sense because Cleopatra, yes, she was Egyptian, but she was mostly Greek. So it makes sense.
The only other thing I wanted to add was, well, first of all, this isn't the end of the desert. We're going to do another desert episode at some point, because we know that after the Fall of Gurabad, there's a lot of other cities that pop up in the desert that tie into some other characters, such as Tainari, and where he comes from. Also, Xiphos, who I think is actually one of Liloupar's children.
I mean, she had a lot.
She did. She had, 301 apparently.
I mean, she was just a photocopier.
I mean, if the one kid was a surprise kid, I'm sure she got other ones.
Right. Maybe she had like a bunch lined up.
Yeah, just in case.
Just like, I need one of these to marry my daughter.
Yeah.
I just need one of these to marry his sister. But I think Xiphos was maybe her favorite that she protected. But we'll get into that in a future episode.
I think on that note, that's all the time that we have here today, travelers, because we could stay in the desert for 72 days. But we won't.
I've been here for 84 years.
Thank you guys for coming down into the desert with us, soaking up some sun. I hope you had some suntan lotion on.
Oh, like Sheryl Crow.
Yes.
Or maybe a raven.
But next week, we are going to be talking about the ley line disorder. So get your apparitions of the past ready, because we're going to go back and see it all. If you liked this episode and you want to let us know what you think, or you didn't like this episode and you want to let us know what you think, you can email us at talesofteyvatpod@gmail.com. Follow us on Instagram, Tales of Teyvat Pod, or follow us on Twitter, Tales of Teyvat. Until then, safe journeys, travelers. We'll see you next time.
Bye, Neil Gaiman nerds.
Oh, Neil.
Come on, Sandman.